Hey everyone, how's it going? I hope you're doing well. I'm doing well because today we're talking about music, and today we are almost done with our deep dive into the discography of Canadian pop punk and hard alt rock icons. Sum 41, we're looking at their seventh and latest studio album to date. This is Order in Decline. There's the really cool album art there, show off the back. It's a little digipack kind of thing too. So as I said, this is their seventh studio album. It was released on July 19th, 2019. So fairly recently. It was their last release on Hopeless Records before moving over to Rise Records in 2023. Their next album, forthcoming album, and final album comes out March 29th, 2024. That's called Heaven Hell. It's going to be a double album. There's two singles out right now. So let's get into a bit of the history on this album because it's more recent. There isn't, a lot of deep dive in the interviews or anything like that, but there's some really cool history to get into about a lot of the content on this record and why it sounds the way it does, both musically and lyrically. So on April 23rd, 2019, the band announced on social media that they're actually working on their seventh album. So unlike their last few albums where they've had an announcement and then a delay for one reason or another, this, saying in April, we got an album coming out and then it's out in June. Pretty cool, pretty cool. So according to the lead singer, Derek Whibley, the album will feature lyrics regarding social and political turmoil occurring in the US and Canada. So we're pre a health thing, but maybe other political happenings are occurring during that time as well. So Whibley stated, quote, "The last thing I wanted to do was write a social or political protest record, and Order in Decline is not that. It's also very hard not to have feelings about everything that's going on in the world." The band also released a press statement calling this their heaviest and most aggressive album to date, and I would agree to that. And it's interesting because you think punk and metal, these would be, rebellious genres. They would be on the outcast of society in terms of, political views. And I think a lot of the punk music that I listen to carries that. And when you're in the mainstream like this, you can take shots. You can have a song called 45 that's very deliberately targeted at kind of political happenings, certainly in the States. But at the same time, they're not calling things out name by name. They're sort of, when they're addressing things, it's more generalized, more kind of social and economic woes, but they're not, directly targeting who's at fault there. So pretty interesting take that they're saying, yeah, it's political, but it's not explicitly so, and that's very true. So as I said, heaviest and most aggressive album to date, and it totally is. This is actually also my favorite Sum 41 record since Does This Look Infected? If Does This Look Infected is their sort of pop punk with metal influences masterpiece, this would be their heavy alt rock metal album with pop punk influences masterpiece. It makes me hopeful that their album coming out, they've said it's a double album, so you have the Heaven side, which is the pop punk, and then the Hell side, which is the heavier stuff. If side one is the Does This Look Infected, All Killer No Filler, if it's that aspect, then hopefully we'll get kind of this sort of stuff on the Hell side. Because this is just really well produced. So 13 Voices was a good album, definitely a step in the right direction, but it kind of felt like the band sort of shaking off the dust, seeing what works. And it was more of a hit than a miss, but they're still kind of seeing what works, what doesn't. Lyrically, it's a little unfocused. Musically, it's kind of a little over the place. This is much more refined. There's a very clear direction that the band is taking. And it's a shame that they put this out in 2019 and then in 2023 they're calling it quits, but what a good album to go out on. So once again, Whibley produced, engineered, and mixed the album. The writing process for a lot of these songs happened during the 3-year period while they were touring 13 Voices. And after finishing the tour, the music was actually finished within 3 weeks and the lyrics coming shortly afterwards. So this was in quick succession, which is pretty cool. So who do you have on this album? So we're still a 5-piece, which works really well for the band. I really like them as a 5-piece. So you have Derek Whibley, lead vocals, rhythm guitar, keyboards, piano, production, engineering, and mixing. Dave, so Brand Sound back on lead guitars and backing vocals. Tom Thacker, again, joining the band, a more recent addition, previously from Gob, on rhythm and lead guitars, keyboard, and backing vocals. Jason Cohn, Kalen on bass and backing vocals, and Frank Zumo, also the new addition to the band, on drums. really standout performer on this album too. Percussion, and the weird part, it says occasional backing vocals. What differentiates backing vocals versus occasional? Like, to me, occasional seems almost accidental. Like you just kind of showed up in the studio, shouted a bunch. He's in there, so I was like, okay, I guess we have to give you credit. I don't know. And there's a lot of additional personnel listed. It's weird. 13 Voices didn't have any additional personnel listed really on the album. This one has a bunch. And of note, kind of went through to see what people's histories are. We have Mike Green, who does some additional guitars and keyboards. And I was kind of looking at what he's known for. I was like, oh yeah, that's where I know that name from. He does a lot of work with a really cool pop punk band called The Matches, who are really, really fun. If you don't know The Matches, just check them out on YouTube. Check out a few songs. They're really upbeat and fun and catchy. And more recently, he's done a lot of work with Katy Perry. So he's kind of got that pop sensibility that he can add into the aggressive nature of Sum 41's music. So let's go track by track. Again, this is like a short, but really sweet, really compact, focused release. So we're opening with Turning Away, which is a really good opener, but similar to 13 Voices, it feels like this is sort of like an opener to the ethos of the album and not necessarily musically what it sounds like. That's kind of a weird way to put that. I feel like Turning Away is like a thematic opener, and then the next track, Out for Blood, is like the musical opener. It's still really good though. It's definitely got a nice blend of pop punk and metal, which is sort of what carries through this whole album. Takes a little bit to get going, but we find its place. But then track 2, Out for Blood, one of the best tracks on the album, a great highlight. It was the first single chosen for the album. They put it out April 24th, 2019. It's, again, really representative of what you got on this. Lyrically it is, musically it is. It's just heavy and aggressive, but still has like a really poppy chorus and some really great guitar solo work from Brown Sound on that. Track 3, The New Sensation. Within the genres of like pop punk, ska punk, alt rock, stuff like that, anytime anything is called like the new, I get a little hesitation. So like the new sound, the new metal, the new whatever. It's kind of like you're going to try and be edgy, and it's going to come across really poorly. And the more sincere you are about this, the worse it's going to be. This one's actually okay. I think it's more, again, thematically, the new blah, blah, blah. They're not saying they're rewriting the book or anything. They're just saying like, this is it. And it's more of a theatrical song that kind of fits with that titling. So if you think of the more modern AFI or My Chemical Romance, that's sort of what you get on this track, but it's more successful than I think the ones that we heard on 13 Voices and Screaming Bloody Murder. Track 4, A Death in the Family. This is probably, of my 3 favorite tracks on the album, this is probably my number 2, along with Out for Blood, and then the one we'll get to later, the People Verses. So if you're going to check out any tracks from this, do Death in the Family, Out for Blood, People Verses. In fact, this is the second single chosen for the album. They put it out June 11th, 2019, which is a really good choice because obviously it's the one coming out right before the album's release date, and this is one to get you hype, I think. Really good melodic hardcore track. There's a really good tempo change partway through that I really enjoy of the song, and a really amazing guitar solo. Again, lots of great guitar work on here. If you want to hear kind of, I don't want to call this metal, because I think metal fans will check this out and be like, oh, this is really catchy and poppy and not for me. But I think it's worth checking out. I think if you wanted to hear what hard music, heavy metal would sound like with a pop punk influence, this is a fantastic way to do that. And I would really recommend that. Just check out the songs that I kind of recommended, Out for Blood, The People Versus, something like that would give you a good idea. The next one, track 5, Heads Will Roll. It shouldn't work, but it does. It's Derek singing about how angry and pissed off he is, and you don't want to cross him because if you do, heads will roll. And I mean, you don't want to judge someone physically, but physically, Derek is not an intimidating looking person. And lyrically, even the delivery, it sounds more like sleaze bar-ish than it does like a metal track. I don't know how to put it, but it works really well. It shouldn't work, but it does. It works really well. So kudos to the men for that. Track 6, this is the political track. 45, A Matter of Time. So again, talking about the president at the time, Donald Trump, 45th president. It's the most overtly political track on here. So it's got a really cool chorus. But then I realize it's plain to see that a number is all you are to me. I like that lyric. It's a good lyric. Kind of, it's open and broad, and you can interpret it in a lot of ways. But then it's also very specific. Another really good kind of heavy showcase. They put this out on July 8th, 2019 as the 4th single for the album. Track 7, Never There. Now, we saw this actually on the last album a little bit. It took a while, but Sum 41 has finally figured out how to do ballads with restraint. Especially on like Chuck, as great of an album that Chuck is and has a lot of cool moments, there's just scattershot with ballads, and same with like Underclass Hero. They're just all over the place. They don't really fit in the sequencing. Sometimes there's too many. Here, there's 2 ballads on the album, and they're both great. They both come at the right time. They both serve their kind of emotional purpose to kind of cleanse your palate for the next track, while also being really strong and great tracks in their own right. So this one, it gives me kind of like, and we all know this feeling, like you're wearing your headphones on the bus and you're looking out as you're driving down your route to work in the morning, and there's the rain or whatever. It gives me that kind of feeling, that kind of vibe, and I like it. I like it a lot. And this was actually the 3rd single, June 18th, 2019. Coming down the home stretch again. Only 10 songs long, but it's great. I'm going for quality over quantity for this release. Eat You Alive. This one is maybe one of the misses on this album. It feels like we're missing the climax, like its rise, like it's really good at the build up. The whole time I'm listening to it, I'm like, yeah, we're gonna get there. We're gonna get there. We're getting to something. And then it just kind of ends. Like you think we're just building up to like a great solo or a great tempo change, something. And then it just kind of cuts into the next track, which is okay. It's not a bad song, but it's kind of like, oh, it's not as strong as everything else on here. But then we get to track 9, which is The People Verses, which I really like, one of my top 3 songs on this album. If you think of like classic Offspring, kind of that fast and catchy skate punk with a lot of whoa, whoa, whoas, that's what you get on that track. I like it a lot. Pure iconic skate punk, melodic hardcore, super fun. And then we actually close on a ballad, which in my mind, I'm like, oh, will that work ending on a ballad? But it's really, really good. It has a lot of almost like pop orientation that their other ballads seemed more like power pop or like rock, typical rock ballads. This one, it has a lot of pop leanings into it. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean that in the way that I think they're experimenting a little bit and seeing where can we take our succession of ballads, because throughout their career, Sum 41 have been quite good at writing ballads. So this track is like, well, where can we take the ballad next? And it feels really good. It feels successful. It might not be the kind of thing that if you're only here for the hard music and you're only here for the catchy energy stuff, you might not like it. But I like it. And it's a good way to end the album catching fire. And it's, I mean, now we know the band's not going to be around much longer, but it does make me really excited to listen to their next album, because they have 2 singles out already. Landmines, which is sort of their pop punk single that they've chosen, and I really like Frank Zumo's drumming in that track. It's amazing. And then Rise Up, which is kind of their one of the heavier singles from the album, which is really catchy as well. It still has that pop punk feeling in the chorus, but definitely a lot of heavy stuff, especially in the latter part of the song, and a really funny music video if you check that out. Yeah, this is the 7th studio album, second to last from Sum 41. Let's get that in. Really cool artwork. I like the artwork on that. Show off inside as well. I'm into that. Super cool. And there you have it. We're almost done with Sum 41, the deep dive into the discography of Sum 41. And it's been really fun, a band that I didn't really check out. And for a while, it was a bit of a slog, not super into that alternative alt rock stuff in the early 2000s. But this album really turned it around for me. I think like this is actually from Does This Look Infected up till here. I'm probably not going to re-listen to that many of these albums, but with Does This Look Infected and this is actually one I'm going to listen to beyond this deep dive. So pretty cool. And it gets me really excited for what's coming next. And that's going to be in March. So late March, early April, we'll finish off Sum 41. And thanks for coming along with me. And I'll catch you next time. Bye.